It's a very warm welcome and festive welcome back to the Matchbook Weekend Football Podcast. If you're now watching us live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, you will see that Mr. Adrian Clarke has gone off piste and has chosen a rather festive jumper. Adrian, you're putting. Yeah, it is. There's a bit of a London theme. If you're not watching, if you're listening on the podcast, though, it's got Santa, a moon, reindeers, the London Bridge, just fantastic. Mark O'Hare, we're being put to shame again, mate. But look, we're not really Christmas jumper guys. It's not really in us. Let's do a quick recap of last week, and we'll get off the Christmas theme for a second. A decent enough week, gentlemen. We had 9 selections, 5 winners, still in the black, but there was a couple of those ones could have easily been winners. Let's do a quick recap. Tottenham, Leicester under 2.75. Nice winner there, 2-0 win for Leicester. Southampton plus 1.25, so that was a half win. Everton 0.0, draw no bet at 1.74. Went off odds against America. I'll get you that in that second. Leighton Orient, Crawley over 2.5. Well played, Adrian. And Lazio plus a quarter of a goal. Comfortable winner there for Mark O'Hare. And Mark O'Hare, just to come back to that Arsenal-Everton game, quite interesting because we tipped that at 1.74, Everton the draw no bet. And I looked at Matchbook about maybe 15 minutes before the game, and he could have got 2.1 on it. It was a crazy move. Did you go back and double dip on Everton draw no bet?
I did, only when the team sheet was announced and I saw Aubameyang wasn't in the Arsenal team, which made the move even weirder, to be honest. How do you explain it? It's really difficult to. The only way to explain it really is the guys, the shrewdest guys in the business, the money men out in Asia, the big syndicates, are loving Arsenal at the moment this season. It was brought to my attention. I did my own research on the back of it as well. The money has come for Arsenal in games against Southampton, Spurs, Burnley, Wolves, and Leeds recently. It's not a one-off what happened at the weekend. It obviously looked quite drastic considering the situation that Arsenal were in before going into that game. But yeah, I mean, those kind of moves really do put me off. And I was kind of umming and ahhing about it all morning. I'd already backed Everton, draw no bet, as we did on the podcast as well. And then I was thinking, oh no, this is not going to end well. So I held off. And then as soon as the team sheets came off, I thought there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't go in again. No Aubameyang, what are you supposed to do?
Clearly not the shrewdest people in the market. if they're going in, I think
like Tony Bloom would suggest otherwise.
Exactly. It's a very long season, mate. Let me tell you.
These guys know much more about it. The market is always more intelligent than I am, so I'm always going to treat it with real sort of.
Fair enough.
It's a very small sample size. And Adrian, to your ones, another clean sweep on insights. You had Burton Albion BTTS in that game against Doncaster, and you also had an under there in a League 2 game. It escapes me now. I think Forest Green was Forest Green. And there was one other one. You were very bullish on Wycombe at home to QPR, and you tipped them up at 3.34, and I tried to talk you out to take a half a goal, take quarter of a goal, but look, I mean,
I got greedy, and it came back to bite me. But I know that you were shrewder than me on that one. But yeah, look, Wycombe should have won the game, full stop. Anyway, shouldn't really have even been a draw. But yeah, so no regrets about tipping it. But yeah, I should have gone where you went.
Yeah, small. Mark O'Hare wouldn't have done that, man. He would have taken every smidgen of value out of that one.
I would have taken the half goal, and I was very tempted to actually on Saturday morning. But what I would say is the only thing Adrian can look back on is almost reviewing his bets. Would he have taken the same bet again, considering how the game played out? And I'm sure the answer would have been absolutely yes. So more often than not, you are going to end on the right side of things if you continue to do that. So it lost, but as we all know, it probably should have won. So.
This is a very good point. Denied you an EFL clean sweep on all the channels, Adrian. But mate, you're well in the black at this stage. I wouldn't worry about it. So look, what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about Leicester versus Man United first up, Arsenal against Chelsea, Sheffield United versus Everton, Wolves against Tottenham. We're going to go around the EFL as well for Boxing Day and Sunday, and the weekend best bets thereafter. So let's get into the first game we want to talk about. Look, obviously, the game of the weekend for me and many people here is Leicester City versus Manchester United. Current betting at the time of recording, you can back Leicester City at 3.02 at Matchbook. 2.44, you can back the Red Devils coming off a 6-2 win against Leeds United. The draw is available at 3.64. Leicester getting a quarter of a goal start on the Asian handicap at 1.84, and the total is 2.75 and slightly shaded to the over. Mark O'Hare, start with you first, mate. Two teams that we can't really get a handle on at all. We posed Leicester as well last week. Look, they were very impressive against Tottenham, I thought. But Manchester United, I couldn't actually believe the stat. That Scott Tomney opener, that real, what was after only a minute or two, and that was their first goal from open play at Old Trafford since the opening day against Crystal Palace. But was Leeds just really good? Was that a really good spot for Manchester United just to tear it open, or are this team legitimately are they contenders now?
I've seen that argument being bandied around quite a fair bit this week, and it's not something. I think there's been a huge overreaction from both sides, really, on the Man United side and the Leeds side on that game. It's almost like people hadn't seen Leeds play this season, and then were just shocked by what happened. It was just, we actually kind of talked about it. This was probably a game which would suit United in terms of the transitions and the counter-attacks, and Leeds being so cavalier in their approach. And we saw it happened, probably not quite to the extent I expected it to be, especially in the first 5-10 minutes with Scott McTominay opening them up twice. But they were clinical. But at the same point, Leeds did have 17 shots, created over 2 expected goals in that game as well. So I still think there's quite a long way for United to go. I think the Premier League is a really bizarre season. If you look at the league table and talk about narratives and how certain stories have been kind of emanating about Spurs having title challenges and now United as well. But I still think they've got a bit to go. And you're right. I've personally found these two quite hard to call this season. But I think in this situation, I want to be with goals. Over 2 3/4 has drifted a little bit, and over 2.5 goals are starting to come into contention as well. At sort of 1.73-ish, which would be really attractive if that hit 1.75 or above. United are playing on Wednesday, which is a bit of a nuisance for them. Obviously, we've got Christmas in between as well. An early kickoff on Boxing Day from a Wednesday night match isn't ideal. It's a decent trek from Manchester to Leicester, so they'll be leaving families on Christmas Day pretty early to stay in the hotel. Little preparation time. It's all going to be about recovery from Wednesday. You'd assume Solskjaer will rest and rotate, juggle his team selection again. He's got a big enough squad to do so. But I do think they're gettable, United still. They're only playing Premier League clean sheets this season, came in those dreadful games against City and Chelsea, plus at home to West Brom, where they really could have conceded at least a penalty, if not an opportunity. So, throw in the Champions League, and there's been a real sort of lack of clean sheets and shutouts from United. So I think Leicester will be fancying this game, a clear midweek for them. Obviously, this winning run for United has to end at some point. I've said that a few times now away from home. They keep falling behind and they keep turning it around. It's remarkable, really, but it's just not feasible. It's not sustainable to keep doing that. So I think Vardy will be fit. I know he had a bit of a niggle at the weekend. And the Spurs game at the weekend for Leicester showed just another side to them. They're very adaptable. They're very versatile. We've sort of looked at them being very good in transitions and counters. That worked so well at Man City. But I thought they were really good in possession. I thought they dominated the game against Tottenham. They do have more threats than just Vardy. They've got pace. They've got precision. So I think it'll be a really interesting game, one I'm really looking forward to. But I'm sure Adrian will talk about it as well. But the Leicester's home form is what's quite worrying, really. They've conceded twice or more in 4 of 7. The results have been really hit and miss. It's kind of superseded by what United are doing. 9 of 13 games going over 3.5 goals. 9 of 13, both teams scoring. 6 of 13, over 4.5 goals. So, their average games in terms of expected goals output is 3.02. That's enhanced massively by penalties, but the same can be said for Leicester. I'm not sure who the referee is, but I wouldn't be putting anyone off back on a penalty because these two are the penalty kings, if you like. But I'm hopeful this one won't let us down. I know both teams are probably at their best when they do play in transitions, but I just think it could be quite a good game, and it's quite a good spot for Leicester considering what United have to deal with this midweek too. So I'd rather take overs, but I think Leicester are slightly overpriced too.
I think Adrian Clarke, if you said a couple of weeks ago that Manchester United be a game behind it, they've game in hand obviously to come into second place. They win on Saturday, they're in second place in the table. How do we get a handle on this team? They're so difficult to read.
Well, they've just got so much talent going forward, haven't they? They're cutting loose at the moment. Rashford, fantastic in the previous game, and then everybody else got in on the act against Leeds United. It was really impressive, undeniably so. But I still look at that defence, and I think it's so get-atable, and especially away from home. I think they've conceded at least 2 goals in half their away games, Manchester United. So this is a team that Leicester would definitely fancy getting at. I think all the stats do point towards high-scoring game, no doubt about that. I'm not as as convinced, but I think you have to look at overs rather than unders based on the data. I think first goal is very, very important. Now, Manchester United have only scored the opener in 3 games this season. Okay, on the road, famously, they keep coming back from deficits. If they can see first to Leicester, I'm not so convinced that they will be able to come back and get the right result. Leicester are the best front runners in the Premier League at the moment. They've got a perfect 7 record. First goal, 7 times, 7 wins, scored 16 goals, conceded 2. Once they get their noses in front, Leicester, they're a tough nut to crack. So Manchester United had better start this game a little bit better than they have done in recent games. So for me, I'm leaning towards Leicester on maybe on that. Is it a small handicap plus a quarter goal?
Quarter of a goal. Yeah.
That is my preferred choice, because I'm not sure whether it will be as open as we'd love it to be because of the pattern of big games so far this season. But yeah, I find more reasons to. Funnily enough, on the back of that 6-2, I still find more reasons to oppose United than I do Leicester, which is strange. And you look at their home record, 4 defeats. I actually see that as kind of a positive, in that there'll be a real focus within that camp, within the dressing room. We do not get beat again here, because I don't think they've got massive issues, Leicester, at home. I don't think it's something to worry about long term. I think there'll be a real focus not to get beat. And look, wouldn't it be very, very Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? As soon as they sort out their home form, the away form will fall off the cliff. So look, Leicester for me.
Mark, anything to add on Adrian's tip for Leicester? And obviously, with a quarter of a goal start, you make a profit if it's a draw, a draw or Leicester win.
No, I completely vouch for it as well. I said there at the end of my piece that I do like goals, but I wouldn't be. I think Leicester are overpriced, and for that reason, also the handicap comes into play too. Knowing we will make money if Leicester don't lose is obviously quite attractive. And I completely agree with Adrian about the sort of reaction to United's win at the weekend. There's still a lot of concerns for me in that performance. Leeds getting absolutely hammered by some people, whereas failed to focus on the positives. This is a newly promoted team who's gone to Old Trafford and took them to shreds in certain parts. And I think they only had one sort of fit and available centre half, or sort of normal centre half playing, and everyone else was playing out of position. So, yeah, I think there's a massive overreaction to that match, and I think Leicester can give them a really good game.
Just before we come off this, Mark, so you were saying that you were hoping for the 2.5 to get to 1.75. Now it's currently at 1.73 at Matchbook. On the flip side of that, you can back over 2.75, which is half of your bet on 2.5 and half on 3.0, and that's a 1.96. So right now, if I was to push you on either one, which would you give me?
What, the goals or the handicap?
Yes, the goals, man. Sorry.
Well, I'd take the over 2.5 goals just because I get the full payout if there's 3. It's only a fraction shorter than what I probably based down myself. I expected the goal line to be slightly higher than it is already.
I was hoping you were going to say that. Pretty much hoping. I'm glad you did. All right, let's move on. Arsenal versus Chelsea, and obviously, Adrian, I've got to talk to you about Arsenal. Why change the habit of a lifetime at this stage? But first of all, let's take a look at the betting. Arsenal at 3.98, Chelsea 2.01. The draw is available at 3.8. Arsenal getting a half a goal start on the Asian handicap at 1.96, and the total is 2.5. Slightly shading towards the over there, just under 1.9. Adrian. Look, we'll bitch about Arsenal I want, but Chelsea ain't pulling up trees here at the moment either. So is there maybe an angle to oppose both teams by maybe having a look at the unders here?
Well, yeah, Arsenal have been involved in quite a few low-scoring games, haven't they? The reason that would make me nervous is just the way Arsenal have defended this season, and in Gabriel will probably come back in. We'll have to wait and see what happens with the game tonight, obviously against Manchester City. Who comes out of that unscathed, who plays, but yeah, just very, very unconvincing, particularly on transitions. And David Luiz, when David Luiz plays, he's got this habit of dropping off very, very deep, and I think that will suit Chelsea with Pulisic and Werner and guys like this, given space to potentially run at them. So yeah, a lot of reasons why I'm nervous about this game from an Arsenal angle, really, if I'm being honest. Chelsea aren't pulling up trees, but they still beat West Ham 3-0. Comfortable without playing brilliantly. Probably a bit unlucky to lose at Wolves. So yeah, they'll look at this game and be eyeing up victory, because Arsenal are there for the taking. It hurts me to say it, but confidence is very, very low. And even though there was a slight improvement in the second half against Everton, there's a lot to criticise really about every unit. Defensively, I can pick faults with individuals and decision making. In midfield, there's a big void at the moment with no Thomas Partey, and up front, no Aubameyang and Eddie Nketiah. Hasn't grasped the opportunity. Willian, Pepe, not in great form. So for me, Chelsea, even though it's at Emirates, slightly odds against. So I think that's a reasonable price. I really do, even though, historically, Arsenal will give Chelsea a game. That said, Chelsea have a very good record against Arsenal down the years. I think they've only lost 2 of the last 17. So Chelsea have had the sign over Arsenal, and even though Chelsea are not firing, I can't back Arsenal at the moment, and I want that to change, and I think that will change. They will get it right. But they need something to turn, and this is a very, very difficult game for them on the back of a tough game tonight, I think, against Manchester City in the Carabao Cup.
Mark, Adrian sounds like a beaten man with Arsenal. We're only into the middle of December. What are you thinking with this one, though, man?
It might surprise you. I kind of came into this game looking to try and oppose Chelsea at the prices. Even money away in a London derby at Arsenal doesn't really stand out to me. Only Liverpool and City normally go off as odds-on favourites at the Emirates, and that's only really since March 2018 as well. Chelsea never been shorter than 2.3 in a Premier League game away at Arsenal. So there are reasons, but you have to look at the fact that there'll be no crowd at the Emirates, as well as Arsenal's form as well. To 2 wins, 2 draws, 8 defeats when you exclude the bottom 3. Mentioned last week now, it's 2 open play goals in the last 10 games in the Premier League, 15 hours of football, only 4 clubs averaging fewer shots in the box than Arsenal as well. So we've talked about that at length really, so there's no point kind of going about it over and over again. But I think defensively, maybe not with the eye test, but certainly with the numbers, the underlying numbers, they've not been that bad. And I think Arteta got a lot of stick this week, quite warranted really, for his press conference before the Man City game, talking about percentage chance of winning and losing in certain games. Didn't really articulate his points very well at all, and there's a lot of sneering from the sort of traditional football men in that regard, because he's basically alluding towards expected goals and expected points from certain situations. And I know a lot of people are very sceptical about that kind of stuff, especially on a match-by-match basis. But in terms of expected goals conceded, Arsenal are actually on a par with Tottenham this season, which is really quite surprising. They're actually slightly better than Spurs, and they're the 5th best in terms of Premier League XG conceded this season. And as we said earlier at the start, the market still really does like Arsenal. So that's one of the reasons why they might do. But, as Adrian's already mentioned, we watch it with the eye test.
Yeah.
Not just that, ill discipline as well. But if you look at the last 5 games, for example, though, they've only scored 3 goals from 5.8 XG. They've conceded 8 goals from 5.6 XG. In the same 5-game spell, Liverpool have scored 15 goals from 6.8 XG. So there's a massive difference there between sort of putting your chances away and also conceding opportunities when you're probably not expected to. So I mean, I don't want to labour too much on Arsenal, because I think Chelsea, I was bored by Chelsea on Monday night against West Ham, if I'm honest. I think the final result completely flattered them. A goal from a set piece, a scuff shot falls to Abraham, and the game's over basically. And I think there's been an element of them being a flat track bully under Lampard this season. 1 win in 7 against the top 11. Last season, 6 wins in 16 against the top 9. This season, 2 awful 0-0 draws with Spurs United. Lost against Liverpool in that game with the red card. Lost to Everton. Lost at Wolves. Held at home by Southampton. And I think without Ziyech in the team, and Pulisic wasn't very penetrative on Monday, they just seem to be lacking something there. Chilwell might not be available for this. James might not be available either. So suddenly you lose your threats from fullback as well. So Arsenal, and I know they're not well beaters, but having Granit Xhaka, Gabriel potentially back in the fold, Aubameyang, suddenly they're not quite as bad as I think. But then saying that, look at Chelsea's closing prices. They went off sub 1.7 at Wolves, sub 1.7 at Everton as well. So in the end, I backed out of that, and I'm just going to oppose goals under 2.5 goals odds against. Only Burnley's games have featured fewer goals than Arsenal's, and Chelsea unders in all 4 games against the top 6. Their Premier League games have actually produced fewer XG from open play than Arsenal's, which is really quite surprising. And I think Adrian alluded to it earlier, but the games between the big teams this season, if you look at the games between the traditional big 6, 7 of 10 have gone under 2.5. 3 of them have gone 0-0. So wouldn't be too surprising if this one was pretty tentative and tepid, really. I think Arsenal will be Arsenal and just keep possession and not be too threatening.
Arsenal will be tentative. I just can't see it. For me, that's part of the problem, especially in the first half of games. They've scored 5 goals in the first half. They've had 14 games, 14 first halves.
Them against Fulham, were they? Or at least one of them was.
Yeah, and they've scored 5 goals. So they're having to climb mountains, too often, having to chase games. So if Chelsea come out of the blocks flying here and get their noses in front, I worry. I really, really worry, because the confidence does look fragile at the moment. So yeah, I just think you're probably quite rightly labelled Chelsea flat track bullies at the moment, and this won't last. Arsenal will come good, but at the moment there aren't that many sort of flatter tracks than Arsenal. That's what
That's a very good point. Yeah,
Sorry, can we move on, because I can just see Adrian.
I'm tearing up a little bit as I'm saying.
I would say what I loved about your breakdown, Mark, was you were trying to talk yourself into Arsenal, and then you were like on the ledge. You were like, okay, whoa, come back. I do like the under 2.5, and I'll tell you for the interest of the record keeping here, because Adrian did make a kind of a case there for Chelsea, which is obviously a pretty easy case to make to oppose Arsenal right now, and Mark did the same with Arsenal. We're just going to take this under 2.5 because there's no point making the other ways around. But all right, Adrian,
all logic suggests Adrian's absolutely bang on. Yeah.
No, I do like the goals angle. Yeah, that West London bias. I love it. All right, Adrian, we're done with Arsenal until probably the new year, hopefully. So we'll move on there. Sheffield United versus Everton. Everton, interesting. Let's talk about them in a second. Well, let's have a look at the betting first of all. Sheffield United at home 4.6, Everton just under 1.86. You can back Sheffield United plus a half a goal, good odds against their 2.09, and the total is 2.5. Mark O'Hare, I must admit, like, you can put me fully straight on this, but when I saw the 1.86 on Everton in their current form, I just thought that was a bit of a backward price. Before I looked at this game, I kind of had it pegged in my head at about 1.7. Tell me I'm way off, though, because this is why you're the expert and I'm not.
It's not for me, Sully. Okay. And I'm well aware I'm probably on my own island in this regard, but I'll die on it if I have to. But I don't think Sheffield United are as bad as the league table suggests. I feel like things have been massively overblown around them this year because, results have been absolutely terrible and they have been the worst ever team in the Premier League. But you get all the traditionalists saying that they don't deserve to be in the Premier League and they relegate them now, all this nonsense. But with the eye test and everything else, they're as competitive as they were last year. They've just regressed slightly in both boxes, and that's all that can happen really if you're going to struggle. I think I said before in last week's midweek show before the United game, I was quite interested in backing them with a handicap start against Man United. I thought they'd been a very brave display despite going down valiantly, and that's been the case almost in every game. You look at them at the weekend against Brighton, where they probably should have won that game. They really should have won that game, but they didn't, and that's been the case through many of their big matches. So yeah, with the eye test, with the underlying numbers, etc., they do deserve to have more points on the board. They haven't, and I think that's the real concern really coming into this game is the longer that winless run goes on, the morale saps in the squad, and then you sort of tread a bit carefully really from a betting perspective because there's things which you just can't quantify into odds, and that's mentality and morale and confidence, motivation, and I've absolutely no doubt they'll be motivated and ready to try and get this win eventually. But how do you factor that into a price? And that Brighton game could be a real turning point. It could be the belief in the squad that they can actually go and compete at this level and just need that killer touch, or it can be the breaking point really and show that they're out of their depth and they're going to be relegated this season. It can go both ways. So that's why I'm quite happy to kind of swerve the match odds. Sander Berg's injury is a big blow for Sheffield United too. Jack O'Connell long-term, Henderson no longer about. So the goal's drying up. The issues, we all know the issues really, but So there could be a perfect storm there for Everton. But as I said before the Arsenal game, I'm still not totally on board with Everton in that midfield. I think they're going to have to show a bit of a different side to what they've shown in those three previous games, where they were effectively underdogs and were able to kind of play that quite defensive setup with the 4 centre halves. Gomez is a doubt again. Allen is still out. James should be back, but they weren't brilliant against Arsenal, I didn't think. So they've reinvented themselves, but they might have to reinvent themselves again to try and sort of play on the front foot here. So I look at Everton prices. They were 2.1 at Burnley, 1.88 at Fulham. So I don't see a huge amount of wriggle room in the price there to see 1.85 as a valuable option to myself. So unders was the play for me. Everton's last 5 in the Premier League, 4 have gone under 2.5. That's coincided with their change in system. 5 are Sheffield United, 7 home games under 2.5. Leicester and United were the games that went over, but Leicester's goal came in stoppage time. And since promotion, only 8 of 26 of Blade's home games have gone over 2.5 goals. I think we know how they're going to play. They just don't have a huge amount going forward to kind of get over the line. So, unders was my angle.
Under 2.5 mark, 1.95. You'd be happy enough with that?
It's fine.
Adrian, it's interesting the points Mark does bring up with Sheffield United, and in fairness, he said in the last couple of weeks. And if you exclude, that 3-0 loss to Southampton a couple of weeks ago, and go back to November, that 4-1 loss to Chelsea, there's a lot of really close games. They lost by 1 to Manchester United, by 1 to Leicester, by 1 to West Ham. They lost by 1 to Liverpool, and so Mark's he's not a million miles away with that one.
No. I found myself nodding to pretty much everything that Mark was saying there. I don't think they're as bad as the league position suggests. The fact that they've got Sander Berg out and John Lundstrom is a blow in some respects, because he's obviously suspended, but it could bring Oliver Norwood back into play, and I think they're a better side when Ollie Norwood's in there spraying his passes. They'll look a little bit more like the Sheffield United of last season with Norwood and Fleck and one other, probably one other in the midfield there. So I wouldn't write them off. I wasn't blown away by Everton. I thought Ben Godfrey is really good, by the way, at left back. Yeah. He looked excellent. I mean, he was superb. Wouldn't surprise me if Seamus Coleman maybe came in at right back just to balance it out a little bit, to give them more going forward. Because they didn't. I mean, first half they were clearly the better team. For the second half, they sort of were pushed back by Arsenal. They didn't create that much, really. And against the Sheffield United team that will really be focused. And I think Mark alluded to it there. There'll be such a desire from Wilder and the players to get something out of this. History, Beckers, it's this winless run is horrendous for them. And I just think that fight and spirit might come out in this game. And I've seen signs at Brighton, scored twice against Manchester United. I've seen signs that they're beginning to click. McGoldrick's better. Moussa is fit. Didn't play against Brighton, but he's someone that can make a difference. Ollie Burke came on and was pretty good last time out. So all of a sudden, there's a bit more competition for places up front. And I give them a chance. I think it'll be a cagey game. I don't think there'll be a lot of goals. So under 2.5 is definitely attractive as an alternative. Sheffield United plus a half goal, I think, is an option. You get slightly better value, don't you? Just over evens there for that selection. I could see them getting a draw here, or maybe nicking a surprise 1-0. But yeah, I think unders is probably the safest bet.
When you think sorry, I was just going to say, when you think of the worst teams, which the Sheffield United team are being banded around along with because of their points tally. You think of the worst teams in the Premier League, the Derbys, the Sunderlands, QPR, Fulham, etc. Have had these horrendous points tallies.
Car crash at the back, and Sheffield United aren't a car crash at the back. And I tell you what, and I tell you, Everton are not playing attacking football. Carlo Ancelotti said it after the Arsenal. He goes, look, we've won 3 games in a row, 3 big games. I know we're not playing attacking football. We're not playing the kind of football I really want, but needs must. This is a really different type of test for Everton. And I wonder if it might take them, a large portion of the game to get used to the different challenge of playing a Sheffield United that are going to be really, really pumped up. So, I think this is going to be a old-fashioned, sort of full-blooded English-type game where we might see a lot of sort of guts, but not that much sort of attacking glory.
Everton have had 3 big Premier League fixtures. They played Chelsea, Leicester, and Arsenal. So there could be the potential, of a letdown spot going to Bramall Lane. So speaking of Sheffield United, Aidan, just very quickly, your best bet last week was both teams not to score in that Brighton. And that was so unlucky. When I saw the red card for Sheffield United, it was 0-0. I said, "Oh mate, your quid's in. You're really good." I was
gutted. And when I saw they went down to 10 men, I thought, "Wow, I'm in here," because I did back it myself. And then when they went 1 up, that was when I got worried, because then I thought, Brighton are going to come out them all guns blazing here. I wasn't actually watching the game live, and I thought I'd won until I tuned in a little bit later and I saw the score. I was a choker. That was.
Well, you were on the right side, and like Mark said earlier, you back it again and back it again. All right, guys, let's move on to the final game on our main slate today. This is Wolves against Tottenham. Adrian, I'll come to you in a second. Let's take a look at the betting at Matchbook at the time of recording. You can back the Wolves are 3.9 at Molyneux. Tottenham Hotspur 2.19. The draw is at 3.32. Wolves getting a quarter of a goal start on the Asian handicap. Good odds against 2.08. And the total, as ever, with Wolves game and the Tottenham game, of course, is a low one at 2.25 and very much shaded to the under there at 1.84. Right, Adrian? Tottenham. We got it wrong last week. They're coming off these 2 big losses now. But again, look, they're two losses to big teams in the Premier League. Is there a bounce back spot in them here at Molyneux on Sunday?
Could be. They've got a good record at Molyneux. I know that. I don't know. It's a funny game, this one. It really is. I'm not that worried about Spurs, even though they've regressed a little bit. They're not creating too many chances, and the results have tapered off for them. They've still got quality. They've still got Kane and Son, who are 2 of the best players in the Premier League this season. And I prefer to look at Wolves here. And what I see with my eyes when I look at Wolves is a defence that is not a patch on what it was last season. At wing-back, the guys are not as good. Simple as that. Whether they play with a flat back 4 or back 3. Semedo, I mean, you look at the last few games that Wolves have played, all the goals have come down Semedo's side. I don't rate him as a defender. I think he's pretty good going forward. I think there's a vulnerability there, and he's not really getting any protection. And I'll tell you why he's not getting any protection. It's because there's no Raul Jimenez. So Podence and Neto are having to play inside the opposition half. They've got to provide more of a goal threat for Wolves. And what I've noticed is that the front 3, playing with a false 9 at times, they're kind of staying inside the opposition half. And it's leaving these fullbacks isolated. And for me, they're not as good as the players that they had last year, Johnny and Doherty. And the back 3 and back 4 is not settled at Wolves. And you saw it Burnley. Burnley, not a creative team. They opened them up a lot in that game. Goals chances they had where they should have scored. Burnley, they should have scored more than the 2. Long straight balls. We saw it at Liverpool. Long straight ball. Cody was uncomfortable. I'm not convinced about Wolves at the back at the moment, even though that they don't traditionally concede a lot of goals. So for me, I think Spurs. I would go with Spurs to win the game, but unders is always a safe bet when Wolves Spurs play. The stats outline that. But I just thought I'd bring this up about Wolves because I think tactically, because of the absence of Raul Jimenez, they're having to gamble a little bit and push those forward players on to score goals, and that is leaving a weaker defence a little bit more susceptible. And I think against Spurs, that might be problematic.
Seems like an obvious under, but I'll tell you what else I thought was an obvious under was Burnley and Wolves last night, and I got very burnt there. So Mark O'Hare, what do you think about this one? It's if you're back in the unders, Mark, it's a lot to give up at 2.25 and 1.84, isn't it? I mean, a lot can go wrong with that bet, as we saw as well last night. Mark, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I had something in my mind, and I came in to sort of look at all the Matchbook prices and lines where, and I thought, oh, that is shorter than I'd kind of want to go near. So, I mean, it's a funny one. How sort of moods and stories can change. Really, Spurs were title challengers 10 days ago, and 1 point from 3 games, and suddenly they're not anymore. And I think it's probably been an overreaction on both parts of that kind of suggestion that they were, but they're falling apart, which they're not. But I was a little bit sort of concerned by their lack of ideas, really, in possession against Leicester and against Crystal Palace in particular. I thought they were absolutely fine against Liverpool, but the blueprint that Mourinho lays down, our team's starting to work them out, maybe, but our team's probably a little bit more aware of their threats and being probably a little bit more pragmatic themselves to deny them this space in behind to counter-attack. I think absolutely. I think they're looking to shut the supply off to Kane more than ever. And, I know that's easier said than done, but Palace and Leicester have worked out a way to make it work. So wouldn't be too surprised if Wolves were able to do something similar, knowing how they do set up and how they've flourished in that kind of regard since promotion. I think Nuno got it all wrong on Monday night, actually. Bringing in Otasoe, the young lad, to try and play as a bit of the focal point. I know he did that because Burnley are quite a bruising team, but and he didn't want his young lad to start up front, Andre Silva. But they struggled to make inroads. Adama was on the bench as well, so for an hour they didn't really do anything, and they didn't really trouble Burnley too much after the two players came on either. So yeah, there's a concern for me about what they're doing at the far end of the field. We know they're still able and capable in transitions, but the new system, the new approach still seems to be sort of taking time to bed in properly. So I wonder if they will go back to the old school Wolves here with the wing-back systems and definitely sort of utilising set pieces and playing more of a pragmatic style to deny Spurs that space. Defensively, Adrian's made very valid points about Molineux. Their record this season in terms of goals conceded has been quite strong, just 7-7, 3 of which came against Man City in the opening game. So I can understand why the market's not expecting goals. I think it's probably going a little bit too short there in terms of the line. But I think I'd probably rather have Wolves with a half-goal start than Spurs on the nose. Wolves have been underdogs in 11 home games against Big Six opposition since promotion. Mm-hmm. They've avoided defeat in 5 of those, and they've scored in 9 of them as well. So I think if Wolves do score, they can take a point from this game. It's just whether they're capable of doing that without Raul Jimenez, and I'm not overly confident in them doing so either. So
on that, I looked at the stat, Mark. With Raul Jimenez, they score 1.3 goals a game. Without him, obviously, albeit quite a small sample size, 0.7 goals a game. So there's definitely a difference. I like Neto and I like Podence. I think they're really good players, but
they need a focal point though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's a tough game to call. I think we're probably just opposing one another here. I definitely fancy Spurs to win. Yeah, exactly.
Look, Mark's angle there. Wolves plus a half a goal is currently available 1.79 a Matchbook, and the draw is available. It's not a terrific price for a draw, 3.32 as well. So look, you can take the thoughts of Adrian, you can take the thoughts of Mark, but we're not going to lock in an official bet there. What's the current total between you, Mark? Are you leading 2-1 on these? I think you're leading 2-1, right?
What was the last
disagreements.
Well, I think there's disagreement over Arsenal. I think I backed Arsenal with a quarter goal start, and maybe that's not what I said on the podcast. I can't remember. And they got the draw, and I won. So so I saw it as a win. But then you took it away from me on the last pod, so it's fine.
Okay, well, Adrian, official plays is generally what we talk about here, not what you bet on your own personal account. I see what he's doing there, Mark. He's trying to get you back to 1-1. I'm sorry, Adrian, I'm going to have to do this.
Fair enough.
Plays on the pods, man. No more appetite. All right, guys, before we go to EFL, let's do a quick recap of what we have there from those 4 games. We're going to take over 2.75 in Leicester against Manchester United. Leicester plus a quarter of a goal also, I think we'll take, given that we didn't have a play there in the last game. So Leicester quarter of a goal, 1.96. Under 2.5, Arsenal against Chelsea, 2.03, good odds against there. And under 2.5 for Sheffield United against Everton. Right, EFL. Adrian, you're going to avoid the championship. You're going to take League 1 and League 2. Mark's going to do a championship. So you take it away first, Adrian.
Yeah, well, I'm torn here because there are a number of games that stand out. I'm going to start with Scunthorpe against Mansfield in League 2. Now, these are 2 teams that aren't full of goals. 6 of the last 7 for Mansfield have gone under 2.5. Nigel Clough has sort of looked at the defence. He started at the back, and I think that he'll be looking to introduce some more firepower moving forwards. But he's stabilised them. Mansfield as well. 6 of their last 9 away games have gone unders. Scunthorpe, 4 of the last 5 games under 2.5 goals. They're not full of it either. And another reason I think this will be tight and cagey is the importance. You can sometimes look at other teams and think it's a bit of a mid-table scrap at Christmas. Could be a bit of a free-for-all, bit of fun. this won't be fun because they're both still desperately in need of points. And haven't been in this position as a player, albeit a long time ago now. You don't get beat. That's the mentality in matches like this against teams around you towards the foot of the table. So look, for me, I think we talked about this earlier. Sally Scullen thought Mansfield is it under 2.25?
Yeah, it's 2.25. I think you were looking originally for the 2.5, but it was very short of 1.65. So I think 2.25 is a consensus line there. Yeah,
so we'll take that. What's the price on that again? You have to remind me.
I think it was 1.86.
Yeah, 1.86. So we'll take that. So that's my first tip. I've got two games here. Which one am I going to go for? I'm going to go for in League Two, Cambridge against Leyton Orient. Both teams to score will be my pick here. It's landed in 70% of Cambridge United's games. It's landed in 60% of Leyton Orient's games. 3 or more goals in 8 of the last 10 matches involving Leyton Orient. So overs would be a consideration here. They're very, very attack-minded side. Cambridge have they were the early leaders, scoring goals for fun with Mullin and Ironside and guys like this. Less so at the moment, but they've got good forwards, and Leyton Orient are certainly not one of the better teams at the back. They're starting to leak goals. So for me, Cambridge against Leyton Orient, this is the opposite of what I just said. It's kind of mid-table. They've both got aspirations for playoffs. Neither are going to go down. I see this as a sort of really exciting game, and I think both teams will score. So that will be my tip here. And I haven't got it written down. You text me early the price, Sully.
I think it was just over 1.83. I think about 5 to 6.
Yeah, exactly. Let me. I'll just check it while we're here. I should have been better prepared for this, shouldn't I?
In fairness, your BTTS on Burton and Doncaster last week, getting those up by half time is an absolute it's a dream.
It's an absolute dream. 1.85 is the price at the moment on that. So Cambridge against Leyton Orient, both teams to score, please.
Good man. Mark O'Hare, take us to the Championship. Where are you looking?
Sure, I've got 2. I'll save one for the best bet. So the Riverside, Neil Warnock doing an unbelievably remarkable job there in turning them around from relegation trouble into the top 6 of the Championship. 3 wins on the spin, hammered Birmingham away 4-1 at the weekend in a pretty ruthless display in terms of finishing, admittedly, but a rare away win as well. But puts them in a really strong position. Back at the Riverside, where they've been exceptional this season, 7 wins from 10. Host a Rotherham side who have lost 7 from 10 away from home. So if you look around the market, it's around 175 you can get for Middlesbrough to win. I think if you post up on Matchbook, you should be able to get it. But I know Middlesbrough aren't to everyone's tastes, especially under Warnock in terms of style and approach, but they're bloody effective and efficient. They're in the top 6 on merit completely. Boast the 4th best defence in terms of chances conceded. They've started to click a bit going forward. They've won 6 of 6 at home against the bottom half, conceding just 1 goal. And Rotherham, in contrast, second bottom in terms of expected points, bottom 3 in terms of opportunities created. They're very functional themselves, very reliant on set pieces too. Always very competitive, especially at home, but lacking a little bit in both boxes, especially on the road. They've lost 7 of 10 against the top half, lost 5 of 5 at the top half, and lost 11 of 17 when you exclude the bottom 2. So take the home win at 175.
All right, like it. Okay, let's move on. Weekend best bets, and let's wrap it up from here. Adrian, Clarke, kick us off. What's your best bet this weekend?
I've sort of left it until the last minute to decide. There's a maverick bet out there for people going unders for Leeds against Burnley. I'm just going to throw it out there. It's not going to be my best bet. I've changed my mind because it seems a little bit too maverick for that. But look, I'm telling you, Burnley on the road, they will keep things tight. And Leeds, they're not averse to the odd low-scoring game at Ellen Road. But I'm going to leave that one and go to tried and trusted, actually. Doncaster have been good for me this season in terms of tips and bets that I've made myself. I really like them. Doncaster host Accrington, and it's averaged 3 goals a game at the Keep Moat this season. 65% of their games have gone over 2.5. 35% have gone over 3.5 for Doncaster. So they're a pretty good team to watch on home turf. Accrington have scored 2 or more in 5 away games so far. So they're a side that will go on the road and cause teams problems. Donny have only failed to score in 1 of 17 matches this season. So you sort of throw it all together. Aki as well. only failed to score in 3 games this season. Put it all in the pot. Over 2.5 goals. Doncaster against Accrington, 1.95. I think is a reasonable price there, actually. So yeah, that's my best bet this week.
All right, I'm glad you stayed away from that Leeds under, and I get it. But I just want to watch behind the coach when Leeds are involved.
Yeah, it's a fancy. It's a fancy rather than something you can base on data and I might do it myself just for fun.
Probably do it with you, to be honest, Adrian. Having said all that, Mark O'Hare, what do you like in weekend best bet now?
Yeah, it's becoming a regular feature now on the podcast, isn't it, to post QPR? But happy to do it this weekend myself, actually, and put it up as my best bet. No need to labour the point about the Wycombe match. We've talked about that enough. Yeah. But Mark Warburton's under massive pressure now. Questions are being asked. We've known for a long time that the defence has not been good enough, but we lost key players in the summertime and has not really been replaced and not found a system to work with what he's got at the moment. Just 4 championship wins all season, 7 without a win. And the attack's struggling to create, struggling to score goals. It's not really a great mix, to be honest. There have been spells in matches where we've looked really good, but that's often been between both boxes, letting ourselves down in the final third, and also defensively. In 20 games, we've scored 2 or more goals on only 3 occasions, conceded 2 or more goals on 9 occasions. Take out results against the bottom 5. It's 1 win, 6 draws and 8 defeats. So yeah, really concerned about what Swansea might do to us at the weekend or on Boxing Day even. They've been superb again, lost key players themselves in the summer, but Steve Cooper just keeps regenerating that team into a really competitive, really exciting, interesting team. Got full of energy, penetration, a defence that's really strong. Just built on really strong foundations. I thought they were really impressive at the weekend, beating an informed Barnsley team. Their away record isn't quite as good, but still they've won 7, drawn 3 and lost 1 against the bottom half. Kept 11 clean sheets in 20 all season, scored in 16 of those games. They're second only to Brentford in terms of all the major underlying metrics as well. And if you expect Swansea to score, they're probably not going to lose the game. So Swansea drawn a bet, Swansea +0 on the Asian handicap, which you can get to around 175. Rangers have kept 13 clean sheets in 73 championship games under Mark Warburton, averaging 1.55 goals against. As I say, if Swansea score, which they have done in 26 of 33 away games under Cooper, they shouldn't lose the game. And they've only lost 7 of 33 away under Cooper since the start of last season. So, yeah, very appealing to me, backing Swansea basically under draw no bet away at QPR.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I fully endorse all of that. Swansea and Borough, two good picks, I think, for the weekend. I think both be in the playoff mix for sure. They're good teams.
All right. Head over heart there for Mark O'Hare, as ever.
I'm feeling as down as Adrian was earlier in the show now.
But we'll end on a happy note, guys. 9 selections. We had 9 as well last weekend. Hopefully we'll pick even more winners this weekend. Adrian, Mark, a very happy Christmas to you and yours, and to all our viewers and listeners out there. Thank you so much for everything in 2020. It's obviously a very strange 2020, and tier 4s and tier 3s, whatever the hell else. But look, we'll make the best of it, and hopefully we'll pick some winners. We will be back, I think. Let's talk about it next week. Let's not even think about next week. No, we'll be back at some stage to preview, but we're going to miss the 28 fixtures because I just think we deserve a very earned break. Gentlemen, thanks as ever. Happy Christmas all, and we will talk to you next week.